Hi, my name's Jo Hadley. This is my podcast, Being a Human Lighthouse. My particular passion in life is the connection between science and spirituality. This podcast is about me integrating my knowledge and how I use the same tools as I would use with my clients to improve my own health, my own life, and how I have done. We're all on the same journey, the human journey. Every single one of us has patterns and programs and unresolved emotional issues that are contributing to, if not our health, contributing to different issues that show up in our life, recurrent patterns, relationship issues, problems at work. A lot of these can be addressed by my particular view of the world, and my particular slant into the whole is via the trauma-informed lens, how our beliefs, unhealed traumas and patterns and unprocessed emotions change our perceptions and put us at risk of chronic illness, chronic disease, and also just unsatisfactory lives through our relationships with families, friends, work, any aspect of life. We're all at various stages. I particularly am interested, and I imagine this podcast would only be of interest to people who have some awareness of consciousness, some awareness of this new science that's showing us that we're more than just our body. We are energy beings. The quantum science is showing that we're all connected via consciousness. Each of us are connected through this field that's within each of us, around all of us, and that we're not as physical entities as much as we thought. We are biochemical, bioelectrical, and are basically a bunch of fields interacting not only within our own body, but the body of humanity. The science has also shown that these unprocessed energies, our faulty beliefs, will change the functioning of especially our immune system and nervous system, but pretty much the whole body, because every single piece works together. Nothing is ever in isolation. It always works in relation. We can't have a thought without having a corresponding neurochemical reaction throughout our body. Every cell gets to feel the effect of a thought. It can create an emotion, which have been proven to be neuropeptides and received by the cells, by receptors that match the emotion. Everything is interconnected with everything else. We have learned through simplicity to focus on one system at a time, but like anything, when we learn, we have to make it more simple. And as we gain more knowledge, we create a more complex model. And that's what we're doing now. It's almost like we've got a quantum leap from the purely physical into the physical is still there. It's still a part, but it's probably a smaller part than what we thought. You only have to look at the statistics for chronic illness, chronic pain, to know that whatever we're doing is not working, and possibly is not, well, it's definitely not going to the root causes. I am very interested in root causes, and I have always been. And I love reading the research and the books by scientists and doctors that are showing that just about every illness, including chronic pain, have been altered and changed, and not just managed. People have overcome them or integrated them and become healthy again. There's no guarantee, but if one person has done it, it means we all have the potential to do the same thing. This week, I'm looking more at patterns. I have talked a bit about being in the midst of a dark night of the soul. I'm going to call it a dark year of the soul. Something I requested, because when you do the type of work I'm interested in, when you go down that rabbit hole and you ask to know your own soul, you ask to know your own inner wisdom, when you read science and spirituality, you have to put it into practice. And often the universe or source will send you down a hole where you have to actually truly confront your deepest, darkest fears, your shadow self, and put into practice all the high-minded ideas that you've read about and talked about. So I've had to truly dig deep, look within, and apply the principles I would teach others. I've often written or talked about that I have seen a particular pattern of my own that is super strong and keeps coming back. It hasn't fully integrated, but the fact that I'm aware of it, the fact I see it, I know that its days are numbered, but it's an increasingly powerful control pattern, and one that I know I've had my entire life, and it has been super helpful. It has helped me so much. Before I had the knowledge that I have today and could use the tools I had today, this pattern has gotten me out of many jams in my life. It's helped get me jobs. It's helped with relationship issues. It has been very helpful. And like all control patterns, they were designed to help us cope when we didn't have the tools to do so, and often start when we're very, very young. Often quote Dr. David Hawkins, because his work on consciousness has definitely been a game changer for me, and a way that I view the world through the lens that he writes about. He talks about when you're on this path, you definitely get tested. And I definitely find that to be true. He also talks about that when a pattern has been seen, it often gets worse. It does its best to sabotage you. It does its best to try and control you and really make everything around you worse. Because these patterns, they're within us, but they can then create the situations and perceptions where we see the outside world as chaotic and problematic. And in many cases, it sabotages our life. Mine has done that quite well this year. And as David Hawkins talks about in his books, or writes about in his books, when a pattern has been seen and it knows its days are numbered, it does its damn best, like the bad guy at the end of a film that's been caught, goes on this last rampage. I hope mine's on its last rampage. I won't know until it's been integrated and tamed, I should say. I don't think the pattern needs to go completely. It's been very beneficial, and I think in some circumstances it can be still very helpful. Just doesn't need to work as hard as what it has done. The problem with patterns is they always sabotage us getting what we truly, truly want in our heart. They appear to be helping us, but they actually don't allow us to fully receive what it is our heart really desires. So this week, I feel like I had a breakthrough. I think it's significant. When you go down the path of this type of work, becoming whole and trying to know your own inner wisdom, live from your soul, live from your true self 100%, and integrate all the programs. Well, if you fully integrate everything, I think I would say you've probably reached Buddha and Christ consciousness. So I'm not there yet. But the further you go down the road, the higher your level of consciousness. I find that the higher the level of consciousness, the ability of the people around me to assist me, to be my space holders, to be my compassionate witness, or just be there for me as a good friend, or even a therapist, the higher you go in consciousness, then often those people can't match you. To have a space holder, you kind of need someone of equal or higher consciousness to kind of get who gets it. Otherwise, your space that you need to be held is too much for them and they can't do it. I mean, have you ever... Actually, I'll take that back. I'll go to another example. Example of this is if someone undergoes a bereavement and someone very close to them dies. How common is it that people who are friends or family or colleagues avoid them because they don't know what to say? Or if they do, they say really unhelpful things and shut down the person talking or shut down their emotions. And that's because we can only hold someone in a healing space if we've healed that aspect of ourselves. So if that person hasn't healed that particular aspect in themselves and they can't handle it for someone else. So the more work I do, the deeper I go within myself, the deeper the wounds I can hold for other people. So I know I've come a long way because I know the space I've held for some people and the deep wounds they've had. So I found in this past year that some of the people who have been there for me no longer are able to hold that space. In fact, I found it quite challenging. There's been so few that I could ask to be a space holder and be able to do that. Anyway, I had a colleague a couple of days ago and we sort of had a bit of a practice session with our somatic tools together. And it was interesting just being in relation to another who does similar work. I got an insight into my pattern that I'd kind of had a glimpse before, but went much deeper. And having someone to be there as my witness helped. Because as I said, I've had a glimpse at this before and I haven't been able to go as deep, but having someone just there witness it and hold space and allow me to see it made the difference. And it was Thomas Hubel, who is an expert in collective and ancestral trauma. I remember hearing him talk a few years back about how everything, trauma healing, needs to be in relation to another. And yes, we can do a lot ourselves. We can meditate, we can do our own inner tools and inner work. That's really important. But sometimes to really make the quantum shifts, we need that compassionate witness, the safe space of a therapist, a good friend. We need to be in relation to someone else because the wounds and traumas are usually created in relation. So they have to be healed in relation to another. We have been generally taught that we're all individuals separate from one another. And on the quantum level, and science is showing that that's a complete fallacy. Eastern mysticism and Eastern religions have said that's not true for millennia. We are interconnected. We can't be separate. If we could be separate, then everyone else on the planet could go and we would be okay to exist on our own. And none of us can do that. I remember saying just how obvious it was, how interconnected we were during the COVID pandemic, when everything shut down and we realized how much we depend upon supply chains and different people's skills. And when we couldn't have access to it, a lot of things ground to a halt. It was definitely not very helpful for us. So my point today is We need to heal in relation, and we need to find people who are able to hold us in our space. We need to be able to find people who have done enough of their own work that they can sit easily with ours. Because people who haven't got that level of consciousness, who haven't got that capacity to hold us because they haven't done their own work, can sometimes make us feel worse and more shut down by some of the inappropriate and sometimes ignorant things they say in their attempt to help, but which is often just their own scrambling to get away from their own inner pain, which our situation has induced in them. Sometimes it can be so simple as just saying a simple thing like, that must be really hard for you. That must be scary. That happened to me. I was very worried about chatting to a friend I hadn't spoken to for a while. And I was thinking, oh no, I just don't want to tell her what's going on. And when I did, she just said, that's really hard. That must be scary. And it was like, wow, seen, not shamed. And I thought, wow, that's as simple as it is. And I've had other friends who have said some other completely almost patronizing, dismissing type statements. And that can help make you feel unseen and can contribute to sometimes the wounds feeling a little bit worse. We need to be held in the moment and seen and held with compassion. We can't do things for other people, but just validating their pain, saying that we see their pain. And wow, if we were in that same situation, it would be difficult. Sometimes that's all we need. Often we just need to be seen and allowed to be vulnerable and safe in our vulnerability. As I usually do each week, I finish off with this short meditation to integrate our wholeness. It encapsulates a lot of what I do in a very short 10-minute session. If you'd like to do this right now, as I'm talking you through this process, I strongly suggest that you don't drive or do any other activities, because any integration or healing process requires us to be present and in the moment. So sit down or lie down and focus on the present moment and yourself. Have a quick check-in with yourself and just see where you're at with your levels of stress or tension or anything else happening. How are you feeling right now before we start? And then we'll compare that at the end. If the technique has helped integrate, you'll often feel lighter. Occasionally it brings things up, and that's not always a bad thing, because when we look within, something that we've repressed or suppressed and been using energy to keep down will pop up to be seen. And it's usually not pleasant stuff. It can feel a bit uncomfortable. And as long as it's not overwhelming, that's part of the process. If something is overwhelming, then stop, focus in on the present moment by tuning into one of your 5 senses. Just coming back to the present moment. You can focus on sounds. You can just notice where your feet are or your hands are, or just look at something in the room and just pay close visual attention to it. That will tend to help any overwhelm. And if something as simple as this process creates overwhelm, then I would strongly suggest you work with a therapist, because sometimes unprocessed emotions and traumas and patterns need professional help because they can be so big. A lot of times we can process a lot ourselves. That said, I invite you just to close your eyes if that's okay. Just tune in. How does your body feel as it's sitting down or lying down? Notice that you're supported by the surface you're sitting on or lying on. Tune into your feet. Feel how they're connected to the ground. Maybe you want to imagine roots connecting you to the center of the earth. Where are your arms and your hands? Are they touching anything? Are they open? Just notice and become aware of what's happening in the hands and feet. Now I invite you just to notice the clothes, say, on your skin. How do they feel? Tune into the sounds that are around you. Right now, I've got a neighbor's dog barking like crazy. Just tune into the sounds around you, what's happening in your environment. Notice your breath and how the body moves as you breathe in and as you breathe out. Just become aware and curious. You don't want to change anything or judge anything. Now imagine a cord going from the center of your head to the center of the universe. So you're plugging in to all that is. So now you're connected above to the universe and below to the center of the earth. And just notice all the space around you that appears to be empty, but it's not. It's part of the universe. It's part of all that is. It contains infinite quantum knowledge. So as you notice the empty space around you, I invite you to place a hand over your heart and start to breathe it in low and slow, imagining as you're breathing in that every cell in your body is being filled up with the air and oxygen, the chi energy that's coming in, all the quantum information and light. Breathe it in, charge up every cell in your body with the breath in. And as you breathe out, just allow everything that your body no longer needs to be removed. We're exchanging the new, the light, the quantum information, the oxygen, the chi energy. We're exchanging that, breathing in, filling up every cell in our body, lighting ourselves up from within. And as we breathe out, we're letting go of anything else, all the smudgy chemicals and toxins that block our perception, that blocks our access to our inner wisdom. Whatever we're ready to let go of, just imagine you're breathing it out. Just breathe in low and slow, in through the heart area, filling up the entire body, bringing this energy to every cell in your body, lighting yourself up from within, seeing your own inner light, your own inner wisdom. Now I invite you to just scan your body and become aware of any sensations that are in your body. They can be pleasant, they might be neutral, quite often they're unpleasant. Just become aware of the sensations that are within your body. This is how our body communicates with us. Often we squash it down, don't listen, override it, But right now, we're going to let our body speak to us, and we're just going to be curious, non-judgmental, and listen. You may want to do some low, slow breaths into that area if it's unpleasant. You may just want to be curious and just observe these sensations. The unprocessed emotions and energies get held in our body, and they're often these unpleasant sensations. And as we allow ourselves to witness them, to experience them, they're often integrating back into the whole so they won't cause so much havoc unconsciously afterwards. Again, just be curious of the sensations within your body. Allow them to be there. If you have lots of chronic pain or lots of areas of high intensity, you might want to focus on an area that's feeling good. Sometimes when we have a persistent pain, focusing on just it can expand it and make it more. So focusing on an area that's neutral or feeling good can actually turn down the persistent and chronic pain. There is no right or wrong. We all have our individual ways of integrating. Sometimes by focusing on things in this way with curiosity and non-judgment, it allows it to decrease and disperse. Sometimes it increases as our attention is on it. Once again, place your hand on your heart and do 3 low, slow breaths, filling up every cell in your body. Really feeling your own inner light as you breathe in and letting go of everything you're willing and able to let go of at this moment. 3 low, slow breaths. Now, I invite you to just imagine what it would feel like if every limitation from your life was removed, if you were just given a magic wand to wave and you could live the life of your dreams. If money wasn't an option, if all the limitations and restrictions weren't there anymore, who would you be? What would you feel? How would you know all these limitations had gone? How would you recognize if you were living the life of your dreams? What would it feel like in your body? Would it feel expansive? Would it feel like joy? Would you feel inner peace? Would you feel unconditional love? Would there be compassion? What would be there? Who would you be? And what would you be feeling if all limitations were gone and you had a magic wand to create the life of your dreams? Who would you be if all the limitations disappeared? If all the resources were available, how would it feel? How free would you feel? Really breathe in, feel in your body how it would be if miraculously a magic wand was waved, all limitations disappeared. You had all the resources available when you needed them, at the moment you needed them. Relationships were optimal and healthy and loving. Work situations were just inspiring and creative and done from the heart because you loved what you were doing. You were living in a place that just filled you with awe and love and contentment. Just really feel what it would feel like to live that way. As you're feeling these feelings, you're allowing your body to know what it's looking for. Because if you don't know what you're looking for, how will you know when you get there? And having experienced it now in our imaginations, we can create it. If we can imagine it, we can create it. So as we feel this, we're generating a GPS towards our life of magic, miracles, and free from limitations. Just set the intention to walk towards this feeling. Be willing to walk towards this life of miracles without limitations, fully resourced. What would it feel like? If all our faulty beliefs and our fears disappeared, what would it be like? Can we even imagine what it would be like? Can we even get a taste of what it might be like? Now, as this mini meditation integration process comes to a close, just invite you to become aware of your body again. Get back towards focusing on the physical. Feel your feet on the floor. Move your toes, wiggle your fingers. You can move in the chair. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. I invite you to check in with your body. Has anything changed? Do you feel lighter? Did you get any insights? Has anything changed? If it has, let me know in the chat. I'd love to know. And for another week, take care, and I will be back next week. Bye for now.